It's not just pretty lights, though, when it comes to the aurora borealis. In fact, some of these solar storms can actually disrupt and even damage technology on Earth. The Carrington event happened in the year 1859, stands as the strongest observed solar storm in modern human history. Now, that caused a lot of problems. It's back when we had the telegraph, but we almost had one in 2012. Earth narrowly missed that one. So if or when it happens, a solar storm that impacts the globe could become a $2 trillion disaster, because it is a magnetic energy that comes through with these storms, and that's where we could have problems. If it were to occur, might take a decade for us to recover. Some of the destruction of communication infrastructure could bring about the end of the internet. You heard me right. This idea was actually explored by a UC Irvine student. She researched the potential in her paper entitled Solar Superstorms, Planning for an Internet Apocalypse. One of the greatest dangers facing the internet with the potential for global impact is a powerful solar superstorm.
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, pushing this word across the four corners of the world. And as you just saw from that news clip, solar superstorm could wipe out the internet for weeks or months, scientists says. And they refer to this so-called phenomenon as the internet apocalypse. And when you look up that word apocalypse, it goes into a great catastrophe that results in widespread destruction or the collapse of a civilization, aka the end of the world, and more so the end of an age or an empire or rulership. And that's referring to the nobility of Esau Edom. And another definition that caught my attention for that word apocalypse is prophetic disclosure, which shows for proof through the Spirit. When you read Revelation 12 and 12, how it goes into how the devil knoweth that he has but a short time on this earth. And that devil, in that sense, is referring to the nobility of Esau Edom, this so-called shadow government, which is why they have a occult ritual called the revelation of the method. And I brought that out through the Spirit in a lesson some time ago, which means how these higher ups, they broadcast their true intentions and true agendas in advance via movies, TV shows, commercials, video games, cartoons, social media, and even news events, such as this news clip that you saw at the beginning. So therefore, it's pretty much Esau's way of prophesying on the left-hand side. And it's called the revelation of the method. And my take through the Spirit on this so-called solar superstorm that could very lead into an internet apocalypse only declares for the ones of us who are rightly dividing that true testimony of Yahweh Shai are becoming like a thorn in the side of these higher ups. And you had one of those so-called higher ups, referring to Jay Rockefeller. He stated how the internet should have never been invented. And that's because through this internet, where I look at it as a spiritual vehicle, that this true testimony or gospel of Yahweh Shai can be broadcasted throughout the four corners of the world, as it's stated within Romans 10 and 18, how their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world. So now through the Spirit, great fear fell upon them which saw them. And that takes me to Revelation 11, verse 11. And after 3 days and a half, which is referring to 350 years, the spirit of life from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai entered into them. And that spirit of life is referencing to the living waters, aka the breath of Yahweh Shai. And that's beginning with our apostles, elders, starting from Abba Bivens in the late 1960s, early 70s. Because at that time frame, you did have a group of our people knew that there was Israelites. However, they wasn't pushing forth Yahweh Shai, but they only stayed within the Old Testament. So through the Spirit, Elder Abba Bivens was guided by the divine influence to introduce the world to Yahweh Shai. So after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai entered into them, and they stood up upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And that great fear fell upon this so-called shadow government, beginning with the nobility of Esau Edom. And that's why it's stated within Isaiah 47 and 13, how they are wearied in the multitude of their counsels, which means how these so-called powers that be are growing tired of the true testimony of Yahweh Shai. And that takes me to Ezekiel 37, verse 10. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they live. And that breath can be synonymous to the gift of the Holy Spirit. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai stirred up our pure minds in a way of remembrance, which is why you're seeing that great awakening happen amongst our people within these end times. Because the so-called powers that be, they thought they was going to be in this dead state forever. And that's why it's stated within Isaiah 52:1, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garments, O Jerusalem. So through the Spirit, we are shaking ourselves from that dust by these manifold strongholds within this so-called white man's power structure. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceeding great army. And that's referring to the true sons of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, aka Yahweh Shai's day ones. They are signed and crying for all the abominations that are done in the midst thereof. And the main part of those abominations is by exposing the tabernacle of Esau Edom and their wicked agendas. And that's why these so-called powers that be are known as the Illuminati or the enlightened ones, because their power remain in their secrecy, which is why they are known as the shadow government or the hidden government. And a major part of biblical prophecies is how the darkness, the wickedness, and the ill doing of Esau Edom is coming out to the forefront. And that's why it's stated within Obadiah 1:6, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Which is ultimately by Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Via the true and righteous prophets, these whistleblowers and these so-called truthers are all exposing the hidden agendas, secrets, and diabolical plans of Esau Edom that was kept in the dark for centuries, and also prophesying how our big brother Yahweh Shai is going to put down all rule, which means that they're going to be in subjection unto Yahweh Yahweh Shai and also his joint heirs, the hopeful elect. So now you should see a little bit more while they are broadcasting about this so-called solar superstorm that could wipe out the internet for weeks or months. And whereas this so-called phenomenon is going to shut down navigation and GPS systems, satellites, radio transmitters, communication equipment, and of course the power grid, which is linked with the internet. So now we're coming to those times that they're going to put a stop unto the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai being broadcasted throughout the four corners of the world, aka that spiritual vehicle, the internet. And that takes me to Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, said the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Heavenly Father Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And as you should know, a famine is an extreme scarcity of food. In this sense, the spiritual food, that's referring to the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Remember, Yahweh Shai comes within the volume of the book. So he's likened unto that spiritual food. That's why he's called the bread of life, the lamb, and this word is likened unto wine. So they're about to soon implement draconian measures for us to stop eating Yahweh Shai, metaphorically, which is likened unto a famine of bread. But it's going to be too late for them because the hopeful elect is going to be sealed. And also, that's why it's stated within Isaiah the 24th chapter, how there should be a crying for wine in the streets, which means there's going to be a lot of our people desperately seeking for Yahweh Shai via his true and righteous prophets out there on the street corners. And for a lot of our people, it's going to be too late, which is why you have that popular saying, get while the getting is good. And from a spiritual perspective, take advantage on hearing the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai in the so-called cool of the day, the calm before the storm. Because very soon it's going to be outlawed by hearing this spiritual message. And that takes me to Ecclesiasticus 5 verse 7. Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly should the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou should be destroyed, and perish in the day of vengeance. So again, get while the getting is good. And from a carnal perspective, Remember how this cryptocurrency became real trendy? And for the ones of those people that had the opportunity to early invest in those particular cryptocurrencies that really took off, they had a great return of investment. So how much more through the Spirit by seeking the Lord while he may be found? And that takes me to Romans 13, verse 11 in the NLT. This is all the more urgent, for you know how late it is. Time is running out. Wake up, for our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. Verse 12. The night is almost gone. The day of salvation will soon be here. So remove your dark deeds like dirty clothes and put on the shiny armor of right living. Verse 13. Because we belong to the day, we must live decent lives for all to see. Don't participate in the darkness of wild parties and drunkenness, or in sexual promiscuity and immoral living, or in quarreling and jealousy. Instead, clothe yourself with the presence of the Lord Yahushua, and don't let yourself think about ways to indulge your evil desires. So that concludes the lesson through the Spirit. Get while the getting is good. And with that, hopefully you all was edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.
And then more long term, you're talking about hardening the internet. And that's, of course, an economic challenge because it's sort of like an insurance policy. You may never need it. And it would cost trillions to really harden the system. So, the bottom line is always the driving factor. We don't really know if that's going to happen. So early warning right now is really the key for us.
So when you're talking about the magnetic energy, I kind of get that idea that coming into the Earth would be a problem, but killing the internet, how does that happen? Does it come in and just fry everything? Because then electrical grids probably would be very vulnerable as well.
Yeah, it's pretty insidious. You do get magnetic distortion of Earth's magnetic field, and that drives inductive currents that drive the power grid crazy. And the more you disconnect the grid, the safer it is. But the other thing that people don't realize is it can drive an inductive current through the surface of the Earth too. And then you get this kind of insidious thing where you can actually get current from ground. So everybody thinks, oh, if my computer's grounded, I'm okay. But in an event like this, if you drive inductive currents to the surface of the Earth, it can almost work backwards and you can end up actually frying things that you thought were relatively safe. And another side note, sometimes people think, well, we're okay because we have fiber optics. Not really, because fiber optics, it's true that the light isn't affected, but the problem is that you still have sheaths of copper involved in all this stuff. And even undersea cables, which are fiber optic, still have copper sheaths, and they also have repeater transmitters periodically on the ocean floor, and those run on electric power. So even the undersea cables could possibly be fried.
Peter, before you go, we only have a few seconds left, but how would we find out? Is there a warning system that'll be in place in case you capture that we only have 24 hours to prepare? How will we know about this?
I don't think arid sirens would go off or anything like that, but the word would spread through power grid operators, satellite operators, DOD. DOD systems are more robust than commercial systems, but still they have to take those offline. So basically, there would be, we would know about it publicly that there's a big flare coming. And I suppose, people would be warned and probably would disconnect stuff, actually, if it was a large enough event.